We were messing around with palms on Palm Sunday and came up with a Sacred Heart, Immaculate Heart. That's super fun. So thought we'd share that process with you. This is a double palm attached in the middle. And the Sacred Heart, it's a little tricky because this is rather short. It's about 24 inches long. It's also very wide. I'm going to see if I can make it work. Wider is better because the heart turns out larger and it's a good look. Let's see how we do here. I'm going to leave about this much attached and then separate the rib on the closed side from the other two pieces so that you end up with this. And if you've done the cricket fold, the one we call the cricket, because when I found it the first time, it was the basis for an actual cricket palm, which hasn't featured large in our Palm Sunday decoration. So anyway, but cricket stuck. So you're gonna take your right one, your right half of this behind, and then insert it here and pull it through so you get this sort of, it looks like a bumper sticker ribbon, doesn't it? And then pull that down pretty tight against there, and unlike the cricket, you're gonna flatten this out, give it a good crease once it's tight around this center rib. Then we'll do the same thing with the other side, around behind. Slide this guy down through here. Cone it over this side a little bit. It's going to do a little bit of a turn there, don't worry about it. And then once it's tight in this section, give it a good crease. Alright, then go to the right side. You're going to fold this over this edge and give it a little bit of a crease there, and then around like so, behind the rib and down through here. And then just tighten this up. And what's going to happen is this fold right there. You want to get that nice and snug here against the side of this palm and snug around the center rib, and then give that a good pressing. And then we're going to do the same thing over here. Try and get this nice and tight everywhere. Give it a good pressing. So I like the symmetry of it. Is 3 of these: Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. This creates this kind of pretty banding here, and 3 just looks nice. However, for some palms that ends up being a little bit too short. One more time. See if we have enough leftovers to do the crown of thorns. It goes across the middle. That is the tricky part of trying to get this to fit right, is that the wide palm makes a really good heart shape, but it also uses up a lot of palm leaf getting these in. I suppose you could do 2 of them if it feels like it's getting too short, but I think we can do this. Okay, so there's your basic heart shape, and yes, this stuff up here is kind of obscuring it, but we're going to turn this into flames, and that will work just fine. So let's make the crown of thorns first. Got a piece out of each side, and the way I've done it, I make a braid out of this half and a braid out of this half and bring them together across the middle. So we need to get this thing split into thirds. And sometimes your thumbnail can get in there and do that accurately, and sometimes it's helpful to get a little more precision. I don't know, maybe. maybe that was less precise. We have 3 pieces anyway. And then I think this kind of works well. There's a couple ways you could braid it kind of loose, but when it dries up, it really does shrivel a little bit. So I think kind of a tight braid renders well for this. This is a really solid palm construction, so I think it's going to dry really nice. So anyway, the way I'm braiding it, I am actually folding them as I go, so it's a pretty tight weave. At this point, it's definitely enough to get across there. So I tie kind of a loose, temporary knot, just to keep it from unbraiding while you're doing the other side. So just like that, something that'll hold it for a minute. And then again here. Okay, so across the middle, I think I like doing like a little half knot across here because it helps kind of keep the crown of thorns together and does some nice action that way too. Could even, you know, play with the size because the size of this might be quite a bit different by the time, you know, depending on the shape of your initial palm. Yeah, I think 1/2 knot's good here. Okay, so then flip it over and bring these 2 to the back, these 2 sides. And there's a little gimpiness here, but the idea is to insert these down through the braid here so it comes out the bottom. And this will help a little bit if it's trimmed of the very worst of the ends of it. Just makes a little sharper, blunter edge. So it could actually go in between here or here. It doesn't matter too much as long as we get it stuffed in there. I sometimes, you know what, wait a minute. I'm thinking about how I did this. I think I did an overhand knot and then stuck the rest of it through there. So do a little twirl. Stuff the ends up through there. All right. And then at that point, I'm going to stuff them down inside one of these layers so they can come out the bottom, hopefully. It's a little swimmy. Yeah, there it is. Okay. And then these will need to be adjusted with a little bit of manhandling to get them to lay exactly where you want to see that. Okay. Next, it's flame time. You could do this with like cuticle scissors. Big scissors I wouldn't recommend because it's a little finessey here, but I like the X-Acto knife. First off, we're gonna separate this central rib from the rest of it. It's attached right through here. And so you can just pull them apart. So that thing is on its own. Yeah, like so. And then you're going to pull this up and eyeball it to make it about the same length as the rest of the stuff down there. And then I like to go over this braid and stuff it down through the center. And it should come through pretty happy. And then I just kind of cinch it in there, and that just sort of secures the back, and it gives you a little bit more stiffness here with the bottom. I don't know, this could go, you could tuck it behind a picture frame or add it to a bouquet of flowers or a bouquet of palm stuff. It just gives a little handle. It might be useful at the bottom, or you could just cut it off. I think that would be okay too. All right, so now we have this and these two pieces left, and we're gonna turn that into flames, because why not? So typically good flames are gonna be taller in the middle and a little shorter on the side. So the way I was doing it is to kind of cut in like this and then do just random curvy things and cut off that chunk. And then you want to, in order to make this really render as a heart, the flames need to be originating out of somewhere at the folds in order to look really perfect. So you're just going to wiggle this edge. This will be the right half or the right edge of that initial flame. And then from here, we're going to V out. So you want to connect it because this section is going to come off. I'm going to V out and do a little wiggling over here. A little taller. And remove that. And this is always a little fussy, trying to get it to let go. Just give it a little poking there. This one will need to kind of move out of the way to get this completed all the way. And then I think we can do a skinny one out of this edge here and one more toward the middle. Again, starting close to that fold and just do some random wiggle stuff. This one you want to be a little taller, and then kind of moving out from there. Oops, I'm snagging my center rib. Let's see if we can get this piece to come off. Yes, this is a little fiddly, but it's a Sacred Heart. It's worth a little extra effort, right? And then at this point, you just want to kind of rip up the right straight line so it looks more fiery than a natural flamey looking thing. With these pieces. Okay, we're going to do the same thing with the right side. Cut in a little here. There's a little bit of wrestling with fire with this. You'll be fine. All right. There. We have it. It looks done-ish, but wait, there's more. Let me grab my scissors. we can make these into actual thorn looking things. It's similar to the crown of thorns that's large. Just have a little guy here. So you're cutting where each of these strands roll over. You want to start below the top of the curve and cut up to the center at the top. And then this relaxing out turns into a point that sticks up there nicely. It's kind of strange that instruments of torture that tormented our precious Savior are used as decorations now. Oh, may we never lose sight of the horror of the actuality of what he went through. Be careful not to cut the back ones in half. Done that before. It's super annoying when that happens. But wait, what about the little cross? I like how these overlap and kind of look flamey. That's a good look. Alright, let's do the cross. Because yeah, there's supposed to be one up in here. It's going to be like our simplest cross, only super tiny. So you want a very smooth piece of palm to do the tiny cross. So get any odd, like woody sort of rounded edges that often show up on the edge of these palms. You want to tear that off. And then we're going to make something to scale. It's going to be small. I sort of instinctively want to use this green edge, but the rib on there is so stiff on the ones that I have that it would not lend itself to this very well. So if you happen to have access to a big bag of these, or you want to make this in the future, snag one of the outside leaves that's very green. They're like the baby leaves on a palm bud. Sometimes those will be in the stack of available palms. And they're usually thinner too, so they'd work really well for this. But I don't have any of those right now, so. Alright, so, sorry. We have one strand. Do an angle fold right here to stick that off to the side. And then fold that down behind, and then go one more time. Give you some contrast here to see this better maybe. Alright, so then snap off the very end of this so you have a blunt edge to drive through here. And you're going to fold this up and over the front, and then on the back side this is going to poke through the little, oops, boing. It's going to poke through this little belt loop back here. Alright, so now I have a nice secure connection right in the center that we can build off. So, taking this one from the side, figure out it's going to be the flattest side where you have access to shove this through here. On the back side for mine. Yes, it's a tight fit. like we do when we're threading needles in the embroidery guild. Cut it at an angle. There we go. And this needs to be really tiny, so maybe just the same size as the center. And then we're going to go back in the same direction. I'm sure it's not getting tight in here at all. There we go. Wunderbar. Alright, so then this one, we'll give this a little snip too. This is where tweezers might come in handy. Or a pair of pliers. Alright. We have a little cross. Now we don't want this guy sticking up here. So fold it over the middle. And then do a angled crease like so to line it up with the base. And that will work just fine. We'll call this the front. My not exactly consistent size front, but I think it'll still work. Alright, so then we want this guy to sit here in the flames. Go. Whoopsie, hello. Snip the end of this a little bit shorter, and you can just bring it down through the center folded area here, and it should again eventually poke out through the bottom. Voila! That is the Sacred Heart. So then naturally, after we made this, it felt incomplete somehow if we didn't do an Immaculate Heart as well. So let's fold that up. It's going to happen exactly the same as this, except that when you get to the part where you're going to do the thorns, we make a little roses across there instead. Here is a construction from the beginning of the Sacred Heart up until this point. We've got the 6 kind of layer thingies going here. And this is the best place to insert the cross or slash. In this case, it's a sword. We put a cross here for the Sacred Heart, and Blessed Mother has a sword piercing hers. So we're still fiddling with the best way to make this all work, but I think slide this in through the fold number 2. And in this particular case, it looks like the other end is going to pop out somewhere around here. So this is the first time we've done this. I'm hoping it works. We're going to stab Blessed Mother in the heart. Put the X-Acto knife through here, make a slit. And then hopefully we can slide these pieces through there. I can see it. Yay! It's a lot easier to do this now before the roses are all over the place in there. Voila. Okay. That works. And then a little bit of trimming here. We're going to do it in 2 sections. Each one of these pieces will make a line of roses across the front. Split this in 2. The back, or the, I guess, top one here would fold to the right. And then the one on top folds down in between there. And then you start doing, this is the classic palm rose fold. Folding each strand behind the previous one. And then kind of flipping it in front of the rose so far. And do this around and around. So I'm calling this sort of like a traveling rose, because when you construct these in the typical fashion, you're trying to center each layer of rose folding on centering it on top of the previous one, so that it stacks up nice and evenly and centered. But in this case, we're trying to get this thing to move across the front of the heart. So I'm just sort of tugging it in that direction as I go, and not being so concerned to make them one over the other. And hopefully, it does sort of tend to travel just with that a little bit of, you know, let's go this way. Some of you are going to be super annoyed by how fiddly this is. With apologies. It's extra effort, but it is the Sacred Heart and the Immaculate Heart. I guess we can fiddle a little more. I just wanted to see if it could be done. I do have sometimes I make a crown of thorns with pieces that are these small, that are this small, and then we actually add it to the corpus on our processional cross. So he has a palm crown of thorns for the day. It's very, very tiny and fiddly like this. That looks really neat. Okay, so as you can see here, these ends tend to narrow down so much that it just gets a little ridiculous. And fortunately, at that point, we're probably at least halfway across the heart. And this could maybe be pulled out, but I think that's about the extent of that one. And then I just do like a quick loose overhand knot to sort of hold everything together there while we do the other half. And this one's got a wild hair long. Let's just snip that off. Okay, so for this side, split this one in half. Fold them toward the center, get them heading in that direction, and then start building this traveling rose. Okay, so now we got all kinds of roses going everywhere. And I think ideally we'll want to try and cover up this sword that's sort of peeking out underneath there. So we can take these two ends, nip off the end a little bit, and tuck them in through this direction. One of you is taken off in the left field here. Come on. There we go. And this one should be able to follow accordingly. Then, what's left? The flame out up here. The first step is, well, let's cut these shorter. We don't need to set the house on fire with these flames. Maybe like so. And then separate the rib, or the center spine, whatever you call this thing, from the rest of it. And again, pull about half of it up and thread it down through the center so that you have a little bit more stability on the stem part of this. All right, good. Now, flame time. Cut a little in from the side and just random wiggles. And then here. Keeping the origination of each flame near this line of heart down there. And then I want to just break up the straight edge here so it looks a little flamey. Other side. And there we have it.